This is part one of a two-part deep dive into one of Gordon Lightfoot's songs. The second part of this episode will be released at a later date. I hope you enjoy the conversation between me and my guest. Thank you in advance for listening.
The first guest of the evening is truly a poet. He's an artist. He is a friend and an inspiration to anyone who has ever played the guitar or tried to write poetry. Would you please welcome Gordon Lightfoot?
Down in the warm, dark part of my heart you stay. I've been on my own for so long as I stand here today. I'd never leave you. I'll do anything that you say. This is Carefree Highway Revisited, the show that celebrates the work of Gordon Lightfoot song by song. I'm your host, Mike Messner, and with me today is a fellow Lightfoot fan from Chattanooga, Tennessee, making his first appearance on the show, Jerre Haskew. Jerre, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Michael. I'm certainly glad to participate with you. I listen to your podcast all the time, and I really like it.
Well, great. Thank you for saying so, and I hope you tell other people about it.
I already have.
Oh, great.
Many.
How did you first get into Gordon's music?
A little background first. I was a professional musician myself from my college days at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, Tennessee. I founded a band called the Cumberland Trio, a folk group, similar to the Kingston Trio, but frankly better. And the only problem was we got in a little too late. We recorded with Chet Atkins at RCA in Nashville and later in New York City, signed by William Morris Talent Agency, played the bitter end. I could go on, but we almost made the big time. But the bottom line is, just as we were ready to go out and tour on Labor Day of 1964, had a 50 college concert tour, and then we also had a release of our RCA album. The Beatles hit the United States to tour on August 5th. And on August 28th, our manager calls from Knoxville and says, I don't know what's going on, but this Beatles thing has blown up the folk era, which it really did.
Yeah.
The Kingston Trio was reduced from the biggest act in show business to a small theater in Vegas act almost overnight. So there was nowhere for us to go, and the album was not released, and the tour was canceled, so we were devastated. Well, anyway, that's 1964. We continued on. We played Wake Forest University in 1965 and then broke up after that one. We had 8,000 people there. It wasn't bad. My wife was a PhD in economics. She got an offer to teach at Memphis State University, and I had to find a job in Memphis. And luckily, I found one at a bank, and I got assigned to international banking and then to the Canadian territory in 1966. I went to Toronto and stayed at the Royal York Hotel. And I asked the concierge, I remember this vividly, is there any folk music here in town? And he said, oh, yeah, over on Yonge Street, go down to the Riverboat Cafe. He told me how to get there. And so I went down to the riverboat, walked down the stairs, went inside. There were very few people there. But I sat down by a table, ordered a beer, and then this guy walks out, this really good-looking guy, curly-haired guy, guitar player, obviously Red Shea, and John Stockfish, the bass player, and they broke into Rosanna. And I said to myself, my God, who is this?
Yeah.
And he was just wearing the 12-string out on that hard rhythm he played back then.
Yeah.
And I said, man, and he did the whole set, and a lot of it was the Way I Feel album, which had not been released, but which he had already written songs for. And I had frankly never heard of him. Later on, I found that he had released the album on Warner Brothers, but a lot of cover songs on there, except for Ribbon of Darkness and so forth. And so after the first set, I walked up to him and I said, man, you're the best I've ever seen. And I've seen them all. And he said, well, thank you very much. Do you have a music background? And I told him what I just told you. And he said, hell, I saw you guys on ABC television on the Hootenanny shows. I said, yeah,
we
were there. We did 3 of those. We had our little fleeting moment of fame. And so we talked about the music business and so forth, and we became friends. And over the years, I probably saw him 25, 30 times in concert and always went backstage, thanks to Barry and people at Early Morning Productions and so forth. And we'd always have a nice chat and talk private most of the time. It wasn't a close friendship, but a good friendship. Lasted until he stopped touring, actually. That's how I got involved. In my opinion, he's the finest singer, songwriter, performer ever, period. And I'm not the only person who thinks that.
Oh, no, clearly you're not. And I'm right there with you. I'm sorry that I didn't have the same kind of relationship that you had with him, but I feel like he knew me and that I knew him just through his songs. And I'm sure I'm not the only person who feels that way.
No, there are millions out there.
Oh, yeah. So you wanted to talk about I'll Do Anything, which is on the Shadows album. It's
Right.
after the hits have stopped coming for Lightfoot.
That's right.
Why did you want to talk about that one in particular?
Well, I've always loved the song. I've not covered the song. I've covered several of Gord's songs, but not that one. But I always liked the song for two reasons. Number one, it's really catchy.
Yeah.
And also, I love the guitar riffs, and I love Pee Wee Charles' dobro playing, particularly on the song. Ed Ringwald, he and I are friends and have been for years and stay in touch through the internet. And he still plays with Canadian bands. But I liked those riffs and the Terry Clements guitar riffs on the song. And it was just a catchy song. And then I started listening to the words. And all of a sudden, here is a guy who's basically begging this girl to take him back. He'll do anything. I'll do anything that you say. Playing guitar doesn't make you a star anyway. And that line really registered with me.
Mm-hmm.
Then a guitar player, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a variation on For Every Light on Broadway, There's a Broken Heart.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I dare say it's the same in Nashville because that's where people go if they want to make it in the country or the gospel fields.
Well, Shadows was one of my favorite albums and very underrated in my opinion. Didn't chart very well, I guess because he was not making the charts very much. When was it released?
82.
82, yeah. And that was 6 years after Record of Edmund Fitzgerald. So I guess the hits had stopped coming. And the Salute album was cut after that, right?
So you had Summertime Dream and then Endless Wire in 78.
Yeah.
Dream Street Rose, I think, was in 80. And then you had Shadows coming out in 82. We'll talk a little bit more about how the record did, because it wasn't a complete flop, but it certainly wasn't as much as the Sundown record or the other stuff he did in the mid-70s.
Right. I think it reached 87 on the Billboard charts in the United States and maybe in top 10 in Canada. I can't remember as an album.
Since I've got it right here, since we're on the topic, the album, I'll Do Anything, was not released as a single.
No.
But the album went to 87 in the US and it went to 16 in Canada. And if it charted anyplace else, I can't find it.
I guess he was past his prime then, but he was still very good. I remember in 2002, he was inducted into the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame. And right before he had the pulmonary embolism and almost died, and then made the comeback after that. But I thought the song just resonated with me. Any guy could identify, that's a guitar player, could identify with that. Now, I was married before I started the Cumberland Trio, so to the love of my life, we were married 60 years. So I never experienced the groupie stuff.
Well, neither did I, but I'm not sure you missed anything.
My two bandmates, both great musicians, they experienced it a little bit in the 60s.
So that's something they'll never forget.
But it's just, a lot of people think that the song was written about Kathy Smith, who was a mixed bag, I guess, with Gord. I don't know if he ever got over her. It's just basically from what I read, you would know more than I would.
Well, I know Dreamland was written for Kathy Smith. They had split by that time, of course. I'm not sure who this was written about. I tend to think it was not written about Kathy Smith, but it might have been written about the other Kathy.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that as we go on.
You're listening to Carefree Highway Revisited. We'll be right back after a word from a podcast partner or two.
250 and Counting is the podcast that walks you through American history one day at a time.
I'm Mike Messner.
I'm Claude Call.
Join us as we spend just a couple of minutes with you
Each day,
telling you about the events that took place exactly 250 years ago on that date.
you'll learn more about the big events
And the small events.
that led to American independence.
Look for 250 and Counting in your favorite podcast software.
That's 250 and Counting from Acroasis Media.
Radio is so much different than it was in the 80s. We had it all. The music, the movies, the DJs, and morning shows. Back to the 80s Radio is a show from the 80s in podcast form. We bring the memories from that awesome decade back. Join Toscano and Chang every Friday as they take you on a ride back in time, sharing their experiences and laughs. Stop on by and discover some of the wacky things this crazy duo comes up with. They talk about it all, the good, the bad, and the ugly of the greatest decade. Don't miss the greatest 80s podcast in the world. Back to the 80s Radio.
Do you have any anecdotal stories about that particular song, or, did it pop up at some point in your life where you thought it was really appropriate or ironic or whatever?
Yeah, I actually put it in my show. I do solo shows with the band, dobro, lead acoustic, electric bass, and keyboards. And dobro player also played fiddle. So I put it in the set. I just liked the song. I did it pretty well. I mean, nobody can do songs that Gord wrote like Gord, but it wasn't bad on the cover, and I really liked the song. It wasn't particularly the meaning of the song. It was just the melody and the lyrics. And I particularly loved, again, that line, playing guitar doesn't make you a star anyway.
Well, I think that resonates probably with every guy who took up playing guitar.
That's right.
Because we all did it to some extent to meet women. I mean,
That's
of
right.
course, we wanted to express ourselves. We wanted to be artistic and all those kinds of things. But anybody who tells you that they didn't pick up a guitar in order to meet girls is lying.
You're right. An anecdote is that later in my career, from 1986 to 1991, I was co-owner and CEO of Gill Guitars up in Rhode Island.
No kidding.
Oh, yeah. And I tried like hell to get Gord to endorse our 12-string. I even had one built for him, and I never could get it to him. I never could get it past Barry Harvey for some reason. I took it to Kansas City, where he did a show there. It's where one of my daughters lives, and some other place I can't remember. Never could get him to try it out. I doubt he would have given up the Gibson B4512s, of which I have 3.
Oh, wow.
All cherry sunburst. A couple of them in great shape. And I'm not a Martin guy, but I'm a Gill guy because I had the company. But we did very well with the company. We had Johnny Cash, Eric Clapton, Bon Jovi, Aerosmith, bunches and bunches of people endorsing the guitars for nothing because I'd hired the finest master luthier in the world away from George Groon, the vintage guitar guy guru in Nashville. His name was Kim Walker, to run the factory. And he did a fabulous job, and he was also a great designer. And the guitars were designed so that if you ever see a Guild on Reverb.com or any of these other places, eBay or whatnot, that was built between 86 and 91, it's going to be a great instrument. We sold it to Fender. We had a deal to buy Gibson, and that fell through. I might even still be in that business. And I got to know a lot of artists. And I can tell you this, that Gordon Lightfoot was revered by so many of these people, including the young phenom now, Billy Strings.
I always associate Guild guitars, and gives you an idea of the perspective I had. I had a D4 for a while.
Yeah, that's a Kim design. We put that to the line as an inexpensive satin finish model, right?
Yes, it was. And I remember Richie Havens used to play the Guild.
Yes, he did. The D40.
I guess that was the model. I don't remember.
It was mahogany back and sides, yeah.
Yeah, and I think he had a double
pick guard.
Yeah.
Sure did. Right. Sure did. He was a good endorser.
So is there a setting where you could listen to I'll Do Anything that would be just absolutely perfect? Or is this a song that you could listen to any?
I have a wonderful sound system in my Infinity QX50.
Okay.
And sometimes I'll just go out into the car outside at the house and just crank it up. And I crank it up pretty well. I would listen there, or I would listen while driving. That would be my preferences. And I particularly loved listening to that song as a road song, If I was driving, I used to go to Nashville all the time on business after I moved to Chattanooga, and particularly after I came back into the music business in a way with the Guild Company. And that was my preferred way of listening to that song. It was a good road song.
It is a good road song. For me, I would want to listen to it while I was driving, but the scenery would be important to me. I would love to listen to it driving through either the Grand Canyon, which I have never done, or to drive through Yosemite National Park.
I can see it in Yosemite.
We've already talked a little bit about how the song might, but probably wasn't written for Kathy Smith, do you have any other angle on how the song got written?
No, I don't. Obviously, he was tormented throughout his life by romances that went sour, whether it was his fault or her fault or fault of both. Some of that was when he was drinking heavily. I think it was after the Shadows album that he quit drinking. Is that right?
That is correct. By the time we get to Salute, he was sober.
I remember him saying to me when we talked about that later, he said he just walked off the stage and said, I'm not going to do this anymore. I kind of found that hard to believe. To my knowledge, he never stopped smoking. I think that might have killed him.
Yeah, I do too. Let's go over the lyrics a little bit. And you've already said what your favorite line was, but there are other good ones. Down in the warm, dark part of my heart, you stay. So this is a memory, but it's not like, it's not a mental memory. It's an emotional memory.
That's correct.
And it's not one that he revisits very often. The music is pretty upbeat. I mean, it's in a major key, but the warm, dark part of my heart, usually when you think of the darkness, that kind of implies evil or failure. And we know that Gord wasn't a perfect person by any means, but there's nothing foreboding about this. I mean, this is not like the next line is going to be, I can't get over you and I'm going to jump off the nearest bridge or something like that.
Yeah, but a memory, good memory, and it's still there. Maybe it didn't work out, but the memory is still there. Everybody can identify with that from their past.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you never quite get over the first love. If he's talking about that person, I don't know. I've been on my own for so long as I stand here today. Now, he was not married at this particular time. He'd been divorced from Brita since 1973, so that relationship was very much over and done. We know that he and Kathy Smith had split, and I think she was with Hoyt Axton at this point.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think that she hooked up with Hoyt Axton. Eventually, she hooked up with John Belushi, but that's a story for another day. And he doesn't marry his second wife, Elizabeth, until 1989. So he's on his own in the sense that he's not married. I'm not really sure if he was single with a capital S at this point.
I think he was probably, quote, playing the field. I always see groupies there, lightheads. Particularly at Massey and May. I went to several of those.
Oh, man. One of the things that I need to talk my wife into is to going to Toronto with me so that we can go out to Aurelia and go see Massey and, do the Lightfoot Trail and the museum and all that stuff.
I'll tell you a fun story to digress before I forget it. When A Painter Passing Through was completed, the Warner Brothers people in Los Angeles did not want to release it.
Really?
His work had not been selling. This was 1998, I think.
Yeah,
but
I think
through Gill Guitars and my experience there, I had a really good relationship with Jim Ed Norman, the president of Warner Brothers Nashville, who was a huge Gord fan and had actually been involved in a couple of his Nashville recordings, either playing something or being part of a production on maybe a couple of songs. And Jim Ed was the one that convinced them to release the album. And he and I were supposed to go up to Massey and May, and he had to cancel at the last minute, so I went up by myself, and that was the first time that I had met all the lightheads, Charlene Westbrook and all that crowd.
There's a lot of them that I know through Facebook, of course.
Yeah.
But in as much as I only saw the man once, and that was well after he had groupies following him, I didn't get a chance to see that.
You're listening to Carefree Highway Revisited. We'll be right back after a word from a podcast partner or two.
I'm Steph Garcia.
And I'm Mike Messner.
We are the co-hosts of Musical Murders, the true crime podcast that meets at the dissonant intersection of music and death.
From rock legends who lived fast and met tragic ends to the shocking cases of musicians who crossed a deadly line, we uncover the stories behind the ledger lines.
What drove these artists to darkness or made them targets of it? Was it the price of fame, the pressures of the spotlight, or something darker?
Each episode takes you deep into the lives, mysteries, and crimes that shocked the world and left their mark on music history.
Tune in, if you dare, as we expose the shadowy side of the stage. Because sometimes the most chilling stories aren't found in the lyrics, but in the lives behind them.
Musical Murders, available on the Sinister Somnolence YouTube channel. No one can tell the true stories of the West better than author Rick Steber, and now there's a podcast showcasing his work. It's called Writing the West, and every episode will feature his short stories and his poetry. If you want to know the true stories of cowboys, pioneers, miners, and Native Americans, this 15-minute podcast is for you. Writing the West is available on Spotify, Audible, Podbean, or wherever you get your listening matter. That's Writing the West, the work of Rick Steber.
I'd never leave you. I'll do anything that you say. Now, like you said, this is a guy who's desperate to keep this woman around.
That's right.
But it's also a little bit chilling to me. He's willing to just become absolutely abject.
But if you think about it, Michael, think about relationships. This guy had to be tempted so many, many times, whether he was married or not.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he's lamenting a loss of, we don't know who it was. So he gets very vulnerable in these lines here.
And if you're that lonely, loneliness will drive people to do crazy stuff. So I don't mean to sound judgmental. It's just that when you think about it, at first blush, it seems like, okay, come on, don't be so codependent. And then you realize, okay, everybody has been that lonely where you will do anything to keep whomever it is, even if it's your therapist, you know, or somebody you're not going to have a romantic relationship, but just please don't leave. Give me a few more minutes before I have to go back to my terrible existence where I don't know anyone. I've been around some walking on the down street, feeling as low as the soles on the shoes of my feet. So this means that he knows what it's like to be depressed. He knows what it's like to be heartbroken.
I don't think there's any question about it.
Right. And he's been remarkably successful as a musician. But what is this saying? Lucky at cards, unlucky at love. Yeah. And some of that was his own doing, let's face it. Taking dead aim on fortune and fame, you might say. I got to say, this is almost my favorite line, because it could be he doesn't care about fortune and fame anymore, or it could be that he knows that the hits have stopped and he's in a creative rut, maybe that he'll never get out of, or that he hates his superstar status.
I've never thought of that. That's a good point.
I mean, taking aim, you know, implies that there's this firearm and that you're going to blow it to pieces, and you don't do that accidentally.
Or he's into the concert circuit. Now, the road is tough. I don't know if you ever had experienced that or not, but I did back in the 60s. And it's tough. And when you're out there, we had a trio and a bass player, but that's not like being just by yourself, either with Red or Stockfish or later Rick Haynes and then adding the other guys. The road is tough.
You know, I always think about Elvis in that regard, because nobody else knew what it was like to be Elvis. He had his guys around him, what they called the Memphis Mafia. The Beatles at least had each other.
Although they didn't like each other.
At times, I mean, they could argue a lot about amongst themselves, but, you know, there was a time when they were really tight. And so I think that at least they had each other for a while, but I can only imagine the loneliness if you're a solo act.
Can you imagine if you're playing August of 64 and you're playing a concert in Shea Stadium where the Mets play, and there are 55,000 people there. And from the time they're introduced, a limo comes in. I saw this live on black and white television. And it was so loud from the time they were introduced, they couldn't hear a thing.
Yeah.
I remember a close-up of John Lennon grinning and rubbing his elbow on the keyboard.
Right. I've seen that on the Beatles anthology.
And then McCartney was looking, just kind of shrugging his shoulders, and what are we going to do? And so I think they went through the motions, and then when it's over, they get in the limo and the crowd disperses. But it was just pandemonium.
They might as well have been holding broomsticks up there. I mean, you couldn't hear a thing that they were doing. Playing guitar doesn't make you a star anyway. Now, my
favorite line in the song.
We've talked about that line a little bit. And the thing is, actually, it can make you a star if you're good at it and you're in the right place at the right time. I mean, you know that.
Well, let's put it this way. From my Gill guitar experience running that company, market research, The number one reason people buy a guitar, you might find this hard to believe, but it's true, is what it looks like on them.
No, I believe that.
And the second reason is who plays it. Well, I want to be like Eric Clapton or Johnny Cash or whatever, or lead players like Joe Perry or Richie Sambora, people like that. But what he's saying here, it doesn't necessarily make you a star, but it's something that can be a catalyst toward that.
You're not going to be a star in the music business in most cases unless you're a frontman.
That's right.
And what do most frontmen do if they're not playing piano, like Elton or Billy Joel or whomever? They're going to be playing guitar, even if it's just rhythm guitar.
That's right.
I'm a fan of Dylan, but I'm not a fan of his musicianship.
He's not a very good player, and he doesn't play good rhythm. And nobody's going to buy a guitar because of what it looks like on Bob Dylan.
Well, especially because he doesn't play guitar very much anymore.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, he plays keyboards mostly.
And I don't know how much he's even trying anymore. Many of the time, I wish that I were free. And I wonder, free
That's a really interesting line. It's almost diametrically opposed to some of the other things. Free from what?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's for relationships or not, or free from the road, or I wish I could be a normal person.
Maybe free from his alcoholism because he was still...
That's right. That's a good point, too.
But my love for you was too deep for my eyes to see. This is funny to me, but he didn't realize he was so deeply in love with her, whomever she is. But the thing is that doesn't go with the previous line at all.
No, it doesn't.
From what I can tell. So is he just doing poetic license here, or has he run out of gas?
I would say possibly so. Although, he's a musicologist. A lot of people don't know that. He was trained in music theory at Westlake School of Music and keyboards and music theory. And of course, he wrote his own lead sheets. He wasn't like those of us who play by ear, which is one of the things I always respected about him.
Yeah. I don't know where that was coming from. I mean, it works poetically. Whenever the thought seems better off left alone, I think of you then in a way that is 10 times as strong. So he knows that thinking about this woman is unwise, maybe dangerous, but it's also irresistible.
That's right.
So he gets caught up. He can't help but contemplate this woman.
I wonder if there were women when we talk about this.
I think we'll never know, but yeah.
We'll never know, of course. Whether it was more than one woman or he was just reminiscing about one.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, he's using the word you, but that could mean many, plural you also. Try to believe me, I'll do anything that you say. Well, he finds it necessary to say, try to believe me, maybe to say, okay, well, maybe I lied once, but I'm not lying now.
Yeah.
Though it might grieve me, I'll do anything that you say. And he knows there's going to be a price to pay.
That's right.
Falling at the feet of this woman, but he doesn't care.
He's hopelessly romantic.
Yeah, well, hopelessly something.
I have a song that I wrote called Lady of the Highlands, which is a pretty good song. There's a song within her heart she sings, but the only one who hears is this hopelessly romantic guitar strumming balladeer.
Oh, I love it. I love it. When you said that, I thought, wait a minute, Lady of the Island. No, Graham Nash wrote that.
No, that's right. This was Lady of the Highlands.
That wraps up the first part of this episode of Carefree Highway Revisited. The second part of this discussion will be released very soon. I hope you enjoyed this conversation so far and that you'll listen to the second part when it comes out. See you next time.